when it comes to manifesting your goals, oftentimes you struggle because your state and your assumptions often contradict each other. So let's talk about this because this is one of the most prevalent problems that I see in the manifestation space, right? So first of all, let's define what state is. So your state can be said as your overall way of being. If this seems more complex, then to put it more simply, it can be said as your general vibe that you're emitting every day, right? So this is state. What about assumption? Assumption is a thought or thought feelings. So assumption is nothing but a thought or thought feelings that you declare true for yourself, right? And it can be also said, so assumption is also synonymous with belief, right? So in the context of manifestation, assumptions and beliefs often operate in the same way. Like, I don't know what English literature says about the meanings of these two words, but in the context of manifestation, they operate in the same way, they have the same effect, right? So if you believe that you are rich, then that is true, and if you assume that you are rich, then that is true, right? So both are interchangeable and both operate in the same way, so don't get confused, right? So now that we have said what an assumption is or what a state is, I mean, let's make it more clear, right? So you can assume that I am rich, right? Now this is an assumption or a belief of yourself. It can be also said as your identity, but that's out of scope of this video. So you can believe that you are rich or you can assume that you are rich. So the corresponding state can be you feeling secure, feeling peace, confident. So these are states, and this is an assumption, right? So now that we have defined what a state is and what an assumption is, let's talk about how they contradict each other and how that affects your manifestations, right? Don't let this video be just another video that you're watching, right? If you're watching this without taking notes, just go and open your notes app and just list out the points that you see in this video, because most often your life doesn't change because you don't become intentional about it, right? You don't become intentional about the things you consume. So whatever you watch, whatever video you watch, or whatever piece of media you consume, if it's an educational piece of content, I want you to take notes. It can be either on pen and paper, it can be on your Apple Notes, it can be anywhere, but make it intentional, right? So I will stop deviating from the topic. So let's talk about how states and assumptions contradict each other, right? So, for example, let's say you have the assumption that I am rich, right? And the state that you're occupying, the general vibe that you're emitting, is worry, fear, and what else? Fear, worry. What are the bad state that I can think of? Maybe anxiousness. I don't know yet. Whatever. So these are the states that you're emitting, and this is the assumption that you're keeping. So let me ask you, do you think you can manifest more money, manifest more wealth with the right assumption and the wrong state? Think about it. Another scenario is, so this is scenario one, right? And in scenario two, you have the assumption that I am miserable, but the state you're occupying is you're grateful, right? You're secure, you are at peace, right? So these are the states you're occupying in the second scenario, but you have the assumption or you have the belief that you are miserable. So let me ask you, let me test you on your manifestation knowledge, right? On which of these states do you think you will manifest of you being rich or you being in a more pleasant and happy life and in a desired version of your reality? Which scenario do you think will put you in a scenario where you feel peace, you feel happy, right? So the main question here is, if being in the right assumption will lead you to a desired reality or being in the right state will lead you to a desired reality. The ideal scenario is, your state and your assumption go hand in hand, right? Your state and your assumption must be directly aligned to desired reality. If that is the case, then manifestation is not going to take long. I mean, it will it will happen fast, right? I mean, manifestations are always instant. It is instant in the mental plane, but in the physical plane there is always some time delay, there is always latency, right? But you can skip that latency if your state and your assumption are both directly aligned to a desired reality. So this is the ideal scenario. But over here, on one case, the assumption is correct, but the state you're occupying is not directly aligned to your goal. But on another scenario, the state you're occupying is the ideal state, but the assumption that you're keeping for yourself, it is the wrong assumption for your goals, which is right. So let me give you the answer. So you won't manifest. You won't manifest your goals and your desires if you have the wrong state. Even if you have the right emotion, if the state you're occupying doesn't reflect your desired reality, then how much ever uh, aligned assumptions you have, the state you're occupying will always dominate. Your state will always prevail, and your state will always multiply in your life, right? So, but even if you have the wrong assumption, even if you say to yourself, "I am miserable, I am a failure," but the state you're occupying is a state that is directly aligned to your desired reality, then even if the assumption is wrong, the state you're occupying will lead you to your desired reality, right? So now that it is clear, so the order of power which you should prioritize is, so first, state always comes first, right? You should always prioritize the state, and then comes assumptions, and then circumstances, right? So the main crux of this video is the state you're occupying is far, 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 far more important than the assumptions that you're keeping, the beliefs you're keeping for yourself. I mean, compared to the state, assumption is less. So compared to state, but don't get me wrong, your beliefs do rule your reality, right? They do rule your reality, and the ideal scenario is you must have the right assumptions, right beliefs that directly align with your goals, right? So it is very much important the goals you're keeping directly aligns with your um, no, directly aligns with your goals. But when it comes to state or assumptions, state always comes first, right? So now that we have understood that your state always comes first, the state you're emitting every day always comes first, let's talk about state in deep so that you have a clear knowledge and a clear understanding and a clear practice that you can practice every day. No pun intended, right? So, which marker do I use? Let me use black. So, state. Now, state is not superficial feelings. Don't mind the spelling, right? So, what I'm defining here is your state is not the superficial feelings that you feel. For example, I mean, occupying these states are far more important and far more useful in manifesting rather than occupying states like worry, all those low vibrational emotions, all those low vibrational states, right? So, when I talk about state in this video, I'm not talking about superficial feelings such as happy, excitement, eagerness, and joy, because these feelings are temporary. These states are temporary, right? You can't be happy all the time. You can't feel excited all the time. You can't feel joyful all the time, right? The main states I'm talking about here is a state of knowing the vibe. So what this means is, so peace is a good state to be in, confident, grateful, secure. So these states are far more long-term and permanent states you can be in rather than trying to feel happy, trying to feel excited, trying to feel joy or eagerness all the time. Because these are fleeting emotions. These are emotions that you would feel if there's a certain event that pops up in your physical reality. Or even if you imagine an ideal scenario, you would feel happy or excited just for the time being, but it is temporary, right? But feeling peaceful, being confident, being grateful, being secure, right, that doesn't directly align with you feeling something, but that is being something, right? So you can be grateful all the time, you can be at peace all the time, you can be secure all the time, right? So don't focus on the superficial feelings because they are temporary. Always focus on the state of knowing who you are being at this present moment, right? So when you focus on knowing that your desired reality has already happened, knowing that you're already rich, knowing that you already have what you want, right? That, so if you know that you already have your desire, then that will produce a state of peace, a state of gratefulness, a state of secureness, a state of confidence, right? That is the state that you want to be in. That is the state you want to dominantly occupy, right? So every day, even if you have the wrong assumption, if the state you're emitting is directly aligned with your goals and desires, then it doesn't matter what assumption you have within yourself, right? And when I say it doesn't matter, I'm not meaning that you should never change your beliefs, you should just focus on your state. But when it comes to your state or your assumptions, focus on your state first, right? And changing your beliefs, changing your assumptions can come next, right? So how do you stay in a high state? Like if you have been occupying low states such as worry, anxiousness, fear, anger, envy, any low vibrational state, how can you shift from a low vibrational state to a high vibrational state and maintain it, sustain it throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your year? So let me just give you a simple practice, right? So this practice directly comes from, so there's a Reddit user called ALLISMIND. I want you to follow him because I have been studying his stuff. He has done great work. I want you to follow him, right? This guy is amazing. So this practice is directly inspired. So this practice comes from him, but I have done it, I have tried it, and it works wonderfully, right? So I will give credit where it is due. Follow him, appreciate him, right? Check out his Patreon. So take a phrase. So for example, let's take this, right? I am so happy. So sit in a relaxing, comfortable position and close your eyes and think of the statement. I am so happy right now. Focus on the words individually. Focus it on deeply, right? Fully give your attention to these words and let certain emotions pop up, right? And the next is attitude. So you need to have the attitude of someone like, let me give you an example. So, so I want you to take the attitude of how your loved one or someone close to you, it can be a friend, it can be a soulmate, it can be your parent, it can be your mom, it can be anyone. So take the attitude of how your loved one would wish you well, would wish you the best. right? So I want you to have the attitude, see yourself as someone else, right? Take a third person perspective and wish yourself well, right? Bless yourself, wish yourself well. That is the attitude I want you to keep during this meditation. And the next is cycling. So once you have the right phrase and once you have the right attitude, I want you to cycle through circumstances and situations where you would feel happy right now. What situation or circumstances would you not mind happening right now? Right? If you received $1,000, would you be happy? If you instantly received $10,000, would you be happy? If you suddenly received two clients today, would you be happy? So I want you to cycle through all the circumstances and situations where you would feel happy right now. This can include all the grandest desires and wishes, even delusional ones that you have, that that small and big desires that you have, and cycle through them. Right? Don't get held up with just one scenario. Don't just focus deeply on just one scenario or just one circumstance, but cycle through many scenarios, as many scenarios as you can, and keep cycling through them. That which and keep cycling through those circumstances where those circumstances would make you feel happy right now. Right? So the intent of this practice of this meditation is you need to understand that the state you're generating right now, that happy state you're generating right now, which will lead to peace, confidence, and gratefulness, the purpose of this, the intent of this practice is you need to realize that all dreams, goals, desires you have resides inside this state. So every goal, dream, desire, whatever desire you have, you need to realize and understand that the state you are generating right now in this practice, all your desired goals reside inside this state, right? So if you're in a happy state, if you're feeling peace, if you're feeling grateful, if you're generally in a high state, you need to know that all your goals and desires and dreams reside in that particular state, right? So what this means is, I told you to take notes. If you haven't, then I'm sorry, you have to rewind this video. So what you need to understand is your state creates your circumstances. So if you want circumstances where you have your goals and desires, then you need to understand that it is the state creates those circumstances. So if you want to have your goals and desires, what this means is you need to have the state that directly corresponds to those goals and desires. And whatever goals and desires you have, if those goals and desires get manifested, you will feel peace, you will feel happy, you will feel grateful, right? You will feel secure. So when you occupy these states generally, if this is the vibe, if this is the overall way of being, if this is your overall way of being, if this is the gentle vibe that you're emitting, then obviously and inevitably you will manifest your goals and desires, because you have been occupying the states that is directly aligned with those goals and desires, right? You are occupying the state of how you would be, of how you would feel if those goals and desires get manifested. So since you're putting the state first, like, since state is the cause and circumstances is the effect, since you are changing your cause, your effect will also get changed, and since you have been occupying a high state, you will get your goals and desires manifested inevitably, right? So it doesn't matter what assumption, what beliefs you have, if you can maintain a high state regularly, consistently. So if you can't, then do this practice that I just gave you every day for 30 days and see your reality change, right? So I think that's it. I think I have covered everything. So be sure to prioritize your state, be sure to prioritize the emotion that you feel, the vibe that you emit every day. I'm not talking about the superficial feelings that you feel, like excitement, eagerness, that temporary happiness that you feel if you do an imagination right now, or if a particular desirable outcome that is happening in your life right now. No, that is temporary. I want you to feel a permanent state, a long lasting state of happiness, a long lasting state of peace, a long lasting state of gratefulness or secureness, because that is how you maintain, that is how you sustain your frequency, your vibe, your state, right? Your emotion is the most dominant factor of your frequency, and we have just talked about how you can maintain a high state regularly every day by giving you practice. And I hope you understood this very important concept, and I hope you understood all the concepts we discussed in this video, because this is very much important, and this is how you tackle the problem of contradiction between states and assumptions, right? So that's it from me. I think that's it. Follow All Is Mind on Reddit. Great dude. I love his teachings. And if you want to, and if you want to work with, and if you want to, and if you, and if you're an entrepreneur, and and if you want to work with me personally, then check out the link in the description. And that's it. I will see you in another video.